Welcome to my channel. Today, the topic is Musk and Trump. Are they visionary game changers, tyrants, or just modern day fascists? Two of the most polarizing figures of our time, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, both have reshaped industries, challenged norms, and amassed massive followings. Are they visionary disruptors pushing society forward, or are they power-hungry figures threatening democracy? Today, we take a deep dive into their influence, their tactics, and what their rise means for the future. Who are Trump and Musk, really? Let's start by understanding who these two men really are. Trump, business mogul turned US president, known for his unfiltered rhetoric, nationalist policies, and a political movement that defies traditional conservatism. Musk, tech billionaire, the face behind Tesla, SpaceX, and now X, which was formerly Twitter. A self-proclaimed advocate for free speech, innovation, and a future shaped by artificial intelligence and space exploration. But beneath their successes, both have histories rooted in privilege. Trump, a real estate heir whose company was accused of racial discrimination. Musk, raised in apartheid South Africa, and now linked to funding far right-wing movements. Despite operating in different spheres, they have very striking similarities. Both are disruptors, both command cult-like followings, and both have been accused of wielding their influence in ways that undermine democratic institutions. Now, are they disruptors or are they dictators? Disruptors challenge the status quo. But what happens when disruption turns into control? Let's think about Trump's political disruption. He's transformed the Republican Party into a personal movement. And it's called MAGA, which is acronym standing for Make America Great Again, even though many have said what he's done is really touch on a nerve of the Caucasian population, which is to make America Caucasian again, whatever and however that's defined. He's attacked the media, spreading misinformation and disinformation and undermining trust in that institution. Now, we'll all agree that the media has challenges, but there's some good media outlets out there. But his attack has eroded confidence in the media. And last but not least, he's questioned election integrity, eroding democratic norms. If you know of Trump's history, he never loses. He always wins. So him admitting he lost the election would be contrary to who he really is. What about Musk's disruption in the technology industry? He bought Twitter X under the guise of free speech, but is using it to control narratives. He's pushed AI and surveillance technology with far-reaching consequences. He's ignored labor laws, government regulations, and ethical concerns in pursuit of profit. Disruptors shake the system. They make people uncomfortable. And if you're around disruptors I have a term which I always say, you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. But do they shake the system to just make change for improvement? Or is it for themselves? That's where that line between disruptor and dictator starts to blur. Now, there have been accusations that both men are tyrants. Both men have been accused of having authoritarian tendencies. Trump's presidency was marked by efforts to overturn an election and consolidate power. Musk, meanwhile, has been accused of censoring journalists, shutting down Tesla's DEI program, and amplifying extreme voices. And in fact, you can see the direction Trump has taken, where he's now forcing so many institutions and companies to eliminate DEI as part of their program. And DEI is about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is basically to make the playing field much fairer and much more open, and not just geared towards any single group. And studies have shown that diversity in the workplace, companies who are more diverse are normally more profitable and do better than the opposite. What are Trump's takeover tactics? He's installed loyalists in key government agencies. And as you can see from his second term, and he just got into office, the number of loyalists, many of those you've seen on Fox News, extolling his virtues, promoting him and praising him, they are now assuming leadership positions across the entirety of the executive branch and in key institutions. He's fueled election fraud conspiracies to stay in power. And when out of power, he still fueled those conspiracies. And he's called for military force against political opponents. And in fact, we can see him now weaponizing the Justice Department, having them, or will have them, investigate a number of individuals who may have been part of the group that, if the FBI that investigated him when he did some of the wrongs that he's been alleged to have done. And not only that, he's firing a lot of those individuals who may have been part of those investigation team, whether directly or tangentially. And he's now setting his sight on totally evaporating anything that Biden has done. And in addition to that, he's putting his handprint on any and everything that affects the government. And what makes this more difficult and more challenging is that the Supreme Court, the ultimate court in the land, the Supreme Court of the land, is dominated by conservatives who have basically says he's immune from prosecution and give him a freelance to do whatever he wants to do while he's president. Now let's think about Musk's control over information industry. He controlled Twitter, or now X, censoring critics while boosting extremist voices. We mentioned before he shut down diversity programs at Tesla, reinforcing the corporate hierarchy, and he secured billions in government contracts, merging corporate and state power. When disruptors become dictators, they don't just control industries, they reshape reality itself. And that's where the final stage begins. Fascism. Are these two individuals modern day fascists? Do Trump and Musk fit the description or the definition of modern day fascists? Historian Jason Stanley defines fascism as a blend of nationalism, suppression of dissent, and blind loyalty to a leader. So let's examine their records. What's Trump's record? 1973, accused of racial discrimination in housing and sued by the government because he refused to rent to minorities. 1989, call for the execution of 5 black and Latino teenagers in a Central Park 5 case. And even after they were exonerated subsequently, he never apologized. Described African and Caribbean countries while he was president in 2018 as S-hole countries. You have never heard him say these negative things about, for example, Western Europe. But so long as the minorities in those environments, there's negativity where he's concerned. What's Musk's record? What's his background? Grew up in apartheid South Africa, where white elites controlled land and wealth. Do you know at one point, prior to the abolition of apartheid, blacks, who were 80+% of the population, owned 13% of the land, where the government deliberately took black South African from their land and only gave them 13%. Today, that number stands at about 70%, where whites are about 7% of the population, blacks are still 80+%, and yet they control most of the land. And part of the issue nowadays is Trump and Musk have been spreading this narrative that the South African government, which is black run, is forcibly taking away land from Caucasian farmers in South Africa, which is not necessarily the case. There is some land reform being considered and being discussed and being assessed. But he's basically said that they're taking away the land, and he has signed some executive order saying those Caucasian individuals in South Africa can migrate to the US. They're allowed to do so. You would never hear Trump make such a suggestion of providing executive order for countries which are not Caucasian. If you look at Musk, Tesla has faced major lawsuits over racial discrimination. And Musk has reinstated far-right extremists on X and defended many nationalist movements. So you can see Musk's background growing up in apartheid South Africa and the direction of travel now, as he's now become the richest man in the world and become de facto president of the United States, given the autonomy and the authority being provided to him by Trump. For both Trump and Musk, racial privilege wasn't just a backdrop. It was a stepping stone to power. And once they had that power, they have used it to reinforce hierarchies and silence opposition. And they have been indulged and supported by those who have the same perspective, including many of those in the US Senate and the House, and also some in the media like Fox News, especially in the conservative media. Now, does Trump and Musk manipulate the media? And do they have a cult following? One thing is undeniable. Their followers are deeply, deeply loyal. Trump's MAGA movement, and MAGA, as you know, is Make America Great Again, but many have said the connotation should have a W where the G resides. So Trump's MAGA movement has become a political force, while Musk's online army defends his every move. Both use social media to bypass traditional news sources and speak directly to their audiences. But is direct engagement transparency or a way to control the narrative? Is their war on mainstream media a fight for truth or an attack on accountability? So, what's the final verdict? Are Trump and Musk visionary game changers, dangerous tyrants, or something even much darker? The answer may not be simple, but one thing is very, very certain. They are redefining power in the modern world we know. Whether that's good or bad, well, that's up to you to decide. So, watch the video, leave your comments, like, share, and subscribe. We'll bring you many more topics like this. And more is to come. Because during Trump's presidency, there's a lot of materials for creators. And yours truly will be one of those. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.